even back in the 80s, that every Halloween there are only a couple of solid go-to Halloween specials that you could rely on. Hey everybody, welcome to Damper 3. Welcome back to Damper 3. It's been a minute.
It's been several minutes.
Yeah, sorry about that. We actually were going to record a video about a year and a half ago, and then we forgot, and we just now remembered that we had to record a video. But it's Halloween time, it's spooky season, and that's where we kicked off the channel originally. So we're hoping to get back into the swing of things with a look at some of our favorite Halloween specials that we grew up with in the Gen X time frame. So 70s, 80s, we'll say early 90s as well.
I think the
So,
last time we were going to get together, we were looking at possibly talking about the 50-year anniversary of Rockford.
yeah, so
So
it's 51 years now, I think.
it's 55, maybe. I don't know. It's been a
Well,
while.
so that's a good point. So we owe Rockford Files a good in-depth look. But we also owe it is the 50th anniversary of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So I think we ought to do a little special something on that too. So Damper 3, we're back on track, I think. And so check us out. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please do. We talk everything pop culture dealing with Gen X and maybe fudge it a little forward, a little backwards, because there's some good stuff on either side of that. But
And we
today,
witnessed it. And if we witnessed it, it's ours.
there we go. We're very possessive and kind of greedy in that respect. Today we're talking some of our favorite Halloween specials, and Jeff and I, we settled on a topic, got excited about it, but then we realized that's just not a lot of good stuff out there. Even, and I'm not even talking about in retrospect. I think it was a serious problem, even back in the 80s, that every Halloween, there are only a couple of solid go-to Halloween specials that you could rely on. And other than that, except for the occasional um, Halloween themed episode of a regular series, you didn't have a whole lot of good old reliables. Like Jeff, what's a reliable one that you could remember that you would watch every year
And
back in
one
the
that I would
80s?
watch every year, Sleepy Hollow,
The
from
Legend of
the
Sleepy Hollow.
wonderful world of Disney.
The Wonderful World of Disney. That is a solid one. And I think that every year that was one of the ones I had to watch as well.
I think it would come on Sunday nights. It was Wonderful World of Disney, or maybe it was Saturday nights. Wonderful World of Disney, followed by Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom
That's right.
with Marlon Perkins.
But I don't think he was too scary.
It, I was impressionable.
But yeah, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that's a classic. Let's start with that one. Now, guys, we're going to be talking about some good ones and some not so good ones. And we're really hoping that some of you remember some good Halloween specials that maybe we're just forgetting. Or if you like some of the ones we're going to kind of be dumping on a little bit, speak up. Let us know. Why did you like it? But Jeff, tell us a little bit about Legend of Sleepy Hollow if you can.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Well, I mean, it was the standard story, but it was also the old school Disney animation. So you have
Yeah.
the horse with the really long legs and Ichabod Crane with the exaggerated, almost Abraham Lincoln-esque appearance with the real long arms and legs, and he was a coward, and he was trying to date some chick. I forget her name, but
Oh, right.
yeah, that was the whole reason. He was a preacher, I believe. He was a
No,
parson.
he was a teacher, I think.
He was a teacher. Yeah, that's what I said. You weren't listening. And he was a teacher, and he was going to go visit her. And I think they had some kind of fall
There was a party, and you know
party
what her name was? Her name was Katrina.
as he's coming back from the party. He's getting more and more scared, and the noises and the ambiance and I believe it's the cattails rubbing together, or maybe it's the frogs that are saying
The frogs.
Ichabod,
Yeah.
Ichabod. Yeah, and they're calling out his name, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's only about what 100 years old, so
I
uh,
think he said 1820.
yeah,
Yeah, so
I don't
we're
want
over
to. I don't.
200 at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hadn't seen it yet. I thought it was a great production. I remember being a kid and it actually scaring me. So,
Yeah. And I was I'm not a fan of the Johnny Depp um Sleepy Hollow movie. I thought that was just you know, it was one of those situations where you have to cram 20 minutes of story into a 2 hour flick. And it was
yeah,
just, it was not my favorite. And there have been a few renditions that haven't really, I don't really care for. I told you earlier I was looking for versions of it, and I came across another one from the 70s, and no one but Disney got the flaming or the pumpkin right, the whole
right.
headless aspect of it. Quite right. So yeah, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, 1972, from Disney, definitely one of the best Gen X era TV shows or for Halloween. Um, so I've got one for you that I wonder I'm sure you've seen, but maybe you just exercise it for your brain because it wasn't that good. Halloween is Grinch Night,
Dude,
1977.
I do not recall that. I doing a little bit of research for this and I saw that it existed and I wanted to look it up because it sounds awful.
It was bad. And I remember as a kid not liking it for a very specific reason. I get to it here in just a second. But for science and for Damper 3, I watched it again. And it's not like it's totally horrible. Certain elements of the Grinch that we were all introduced to with How the Grinch Stole Christmas are there, um, but most of it's not. The Who's you might be interested in know seem to be Mennonites or Amish. All the characters are Josiah and Mariah and um, Uraniah. I mean, it's these all these guys, and the whole beard without the mustache. Everything is quite Amish on there. So I learned something about the Who's with this. But so here, let me give you a recap of the story. Okay, so it's fall evening. It's a beautiful day, but an odd smell that the Who's all recognize as being a bad omen kind of wafts into Whoville, and they know that that means the Grinch is coming. Why? Because what happens is when this sweet, sour smell rolls in, it causes these creatures, I forget what they're called, to start essentially barking at each other, which causes this pond to ripple, which causes these other Loch Ness monster looking creatures to start baying, which the Grinch can hear all the way up in his cave, which makes him mad. And so now he's going to come down and torment the Who's. That's what happens. And so he grabs Max. And let me tell you something. The Grinch is a right bastard. He's not a nice. He's more abusive in this story than he ever was in the How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and he's coming down to torment the Who's. So there's a young Who named Euchariah, and he needs to go. I'm not kidding. He apparently needs to go take a dump or something because everyone's locked into their homes, and he says, "I need to go to the euphemism." And the parents, who I think are grandparents, said, "No one goes to the euphemism during Grinch nights." Well, he has to go, and he walks outside, and you see what is clearly an outhouse that he is trying to get to. And then all of a sudden, the winds blow him away, and he winds up tumbling all the way to where the Grinch is, and he starts engaging with the Grinch.
Fortunately,
So,
he wasn't in a porta potty when he tumbled there.
well, he basically decides he's got to stand up to the Grinch and delay him until the winds die down, right? And so that's what he does. The Grinch has this van, basically, this carriage full of horrors, and he exposes it to the kid. Oh, it's no, no, it's being drugged by Max. Max, once again, is a beast of burden, just like in, and and then the kid's trying to delay the Grinch, and so he's like, "Well, why don't you scare me?" And so the Grinch uncorks his vehicle, and all these ghosts and monsters start trying to scare him, and he winds up standing up to them, and then the winds die down. And here's the thing: the the Grinch gets upset because he realizes he's been thwarted. Because when the winds die down, everything stops making a ruckus, which means that he has no reason to be mad anymore. So he decides to leave, and Max decides, I'm done with this. There's even a song where he says, "Why am I a slave to this man?" And then Max decides he's going to leave the Grinch. And so the Grinch goes back up the mountain. Max goes with the kid, and the Grinch laughs because he knows he's going to be back one day. Total evil creature. As a kid, I did not like this at all because it basically took the Christmas story, the redemption of the Grinch in the Christmas story, and apparently he forgot what the true meaning of Christmas is and became a monster again. And not only was he a monster, his heart, which is now three sizes too large, is now apparently a black piece of coal, and he is beating his poor dog. He's completely irredeemable. And even as a kid who wasn't thinking thoughts of, the true meaning of Christmas. I was just mad because the perfect story that was um, when the Grinch Stole Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas was basically turned right on its head with this one, and they turned the Grinch into a monster again, and I couldn't handle that. To me there was a certain level of continuity. I'm the kid who couldn't understand how Luke Skywalker showed up in other movies after Star Wars, right? Because Corvette Summer and things like that. To me, there has to be a continuity as a kid, and so when I saw the Grinch being a villain after very clearly being a nice guy at the end, I couldn't handle that. So I did
Yeah,
not like uh, Halloween as Grinch Night, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. So let me put it that way.
right. Okay, while not specifically Halloween specials, Looney Tunes had any number of monster and I'm certain that they ran in October because that was a
That would
primarily
make
more
sense.
monstrous time. So I've got a question for you. The monster that was a big, we'll say, elongated heart shaped ball of, well, a heart shape of hair with great
Yes.
big huge sneakers.
I know I've got this wrong. Was it Rudolph?
Okay, see, that's my memory too. The scientist says there's a rabbit in the
Yeah.
castle, and if you get it, I will give you a nice spider goulash.
Yeah.
And I was certain they called him Rudolph, but his name is Gossamer.
What? I had
Yes,
no
when he
idea.
was very first introduced, he had no name, but ultimately he became known as Gossamer.
Wow.
Yeah,
I had no
and
idea.
and Rudolph was the first name that came to mind, but I'm 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 almost certain that the reason that came to mind is because you said something about Rudolph. I will give you a delicious spider goulash in your basement over there on Second Street. So I'm almost certain that I got the implant of Rudolph because at the time I had no idea what his name was. But I've even gone back and watched, and I don't know if this is the Mandela effect, if they've gone back and edited it or what. But yeah, they call him Gossamer.
I am I didn't remember Gossamer at all. I did
Yeah,
remember though sometime over the last few years watching and being a little frustrated because I didn't hear Rudolph at all. So
yeah.
I know Rudolph's wrong, and I felt like I knew I was walking into a trap because I've known it's wrong, but I didn't know what the real name was. Yeah, Looney Tunes definitely had a lot of really good. The Dracula one.
Oh
I'm an
yeah,
umpire. I'm a vampire. I mean, just
yeah.
lots of good
Abracadabra,
classic.
I'm a vampire. Abracadabra, I'm an umpire. Yeah,
Okay, so I've got a couple questions for you. So obviously you
Okay.
like Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yep.
So do I. Um, like I mentioned to you before, have you ever seen the movie with Jack Black called The House with a Clock in Its Walls, I think it's called?
I have seen the movie. Um, I remember it being spooky, but quite honestly, it didn't leave a bigger imprint than that. I think if I had seen perhaps Nacho Libre before seeing that and had Jack Black more indelibly imprinted into me, it would have retained more. But
Uh,
yeah,
okay. So the reason why I ask you this is um, what if I told you one, there was another telling of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow that we should have watched and didn't? That there was another short rendition of that movie. See, that movie is actually based on a book that was published in 1973 by this author named John Bellairs. I did not know that. But what if I told you there was a Halloween show that told the story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that told the story of the house with a clock in its walls, and had another story that was called The Ghost Belongs to Me, and those were all narrated by Vincent Price. There
wow.
was a story, I had no idea. So I started doing research for this, and there is a 1979 Halloween special called Once Upon a Midnight Scary. And Vincent Price is the host of it. And imagine just the Twilight Zone, but just for spooky stories, ghost stories. And that was the premise. Vincent Price standing or sitting there because he's cool, right? And he tells these
Obviously.
stories very much in a Rod Serling kind of way. And he starts telling the story, and it goes to the enacting part, that part where the actors do their bit, and it's 1970s, right? There's a lot of corniness in there. There's a lot of 70s. There's special effects that we would not tolerate today. But it was entertaining. I can't. I was shocked. I expected it to be so corny I couldn't even sit through it. But Vincent Price is Vincent Price. So how can you
Right.
not enjoy Vincent Price on Halloween telling a ghost story, right? Um, so like I said, the first story in that is like a little trilogy thing, was called The Ghost Belongs to Me, and it was based off of some story. I forget the author and the book. But basically, he tells a story, and the actors do their bit, and he's like, do you want to know more? Well, read the book. is basically where he goes to it. Then he goes into The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and then he's like, read the book. And then the very last one, I actually didn't finish watching that one because I was preparing for the rest of this. But I mean, you got to check it out. Once Upon a Midnight Scary is 1970s, and it was a cool watch, and I am chagrined I never saw it before. So this is supposed to be our favorite Halloween specials from Gen X time period. Be full disclosure, I never watched it, but it should have. So that's
Yeah.
something that came out of the Gen X time period that I would recommend. And of course, let's go ahead and just say what's on the end of the Gen X time period. I think, the best Halloween specials out there: The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror. There's
Yeah.
some folks who would argue, and they definitely, they're not all gold.
It's 100 floors of terror. Not all of them are going to be winners.
Yeah, we ought to do a Saturday Night Live Halloween special one. There's some good ones to go over
Yeah.
that with that, definitely. But yeah, the the Simpsons Tree House of Horror, especially the first couple of them, were just absolutely magnificent. But we actually did a whole video on, I think, Treehouse of Horror, or some of our favorite
Yeah.
Treehouse of Horror. So we'll link to that in here.
I think you told me in that one, and I didn't know this. Maybe I saw it in the commentary watching it, but the writers hated the Treehouse of Horrors
Oh,
because
yeah, they
it
got
was thrown in as a as an extra. and they were crushed to get it written and get it
Right.
in.
I remember them saying that they felt it became a burden. I didn't realize that. I wasn't sure if I had heard that it was like that way from the get-go, but I know that it became something of a, especially like when they were trying to continue on the clever tombstones and stuff like that. They were
Yeah,
getting aggravated at that, so they finally had to wipe that out. But yeah, those are some of my favorite. I think the Bram Stoker Dracula satire one is probably, one of the absolute best. The King Kong one, pure gold in comedy, and then
well, I mean,
and then and of course probably I think one of the most artistically just well done is the Raven. I mean, you can't to get James Earl Jones to do the Raven and then somehow weave it into Homer Simpson, Bart Simpson. I mean, holy crap, that required vision and that
that
required
was
just
incredible.
just amazing animation and writing.
Yeah,
So definitely one of the best. And Jeff, I'm gonna what we haven't even talked about probably so we've talked about a lot of good stuff and surprising stuff, but we haven't even mentioned probably the one go-to that everyone who Gen X, I promise, probably has watched it, at least a dozen times, which is
yeah,
the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I mean, that was
excellent.
in the 60s. So it technically predates. Yes,
I
but we
think
grew
if it
up on
was
it.
66, if it was 66,
I think it
it's
was
in
66.
it's in our ballpark.
But it was made by boomers, right? But we grew up on it. We were
Yeah,
nurtured by it. This was one of ours. And,
yeah.
how could you not, I imagine every Gen X household and
It
their millennial kids were probably raised on every Halloween watching It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
it doesn't matter what farmer grew it. That's my pumpkin pie.
Yeah, that even today I have my son, I guess he's technically Gen Z. I don't
Sounds
think
right.
I think he's Gen Z. I think he was right at the threshold of Gen Alpha or something like that. We watch it. And my son doesn't like much, but he will sit down and watch it because it's tradition,
Oh
it,
yeah,
so yeah, it's that one's still a lot of fun. You can't help but appreciate some of these, just I guess the continuity of trick or treating and dressing up, and then um, the gags that go into that. So yeah, definitely one of the best one, and probably if I had to rate them all and say what was the best of Gen X Halloween specials, you'd have to say that would be probably the top one.
the the the
Yeah,
best. There's no the
agreed.
that is the Halloween cartoon special.
Yeah,
There are other ones, but that is the Halloween
yep.
cartoon special. I was just going to say, I don't think that there is that much um, out there for us to discuss on this, but there's another topic where there's less to discuss.
What's that?
Halloween music. And I think you
Yeah.
and I share a favorite Halloween carol.
We do. We do.
Yes.
And matter of fact, we have an article that we posted on our D3 webpage talking about Halloween carols. We posted
Yes.
it a few years ago.
Did we?
Yes, we did. It's been a
Son of a
while, but
gun.
we talked about this because there's not enough of them.
There isn't. There isn't. I can't think of the performer.
John
Um,
Coltrane?
yet
Is it
Coulton.
John?
Something Coulton.
Colton, yeah.
Maybe John. Yeah. Uh, all we want to do. Oh no, no, no. The title of the song is "Re Your Brains,"
As in
as in
email
regarding.
response. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good one. And we'll put a link to that in the description of this just to get folks in the mood.
Every year I try to avoid the Monster Mash. I do not want to watch it. And this year in May, I went to Holiday World and we walked into Holiday World's Halloween Land, and it was playing obviously. So I lost this year in May, but
So, guys, that I think brings us to the end of this episode. Let us know, did we miss any good Halloween specials from the 70s? Now, and we'll entertain even the episodes of the regular shows that took on a Halloween flavor. I did a quick search and I found that Knight Rider had its Halloween episode. I think everybody did one. I think Hill Street Blues may have had a Halloween episode. It wasn't real ghosts, mind you, but BJ and the Bear, they had a Halloween episode. I mean, everyone had something out there. So let us know if you have any recommendations for Gen X era Halloween specials or Halloween episodes.
I'm going to go way back before you. So, by at least a half hour.
Yeah.
Carter Country. And it was a fictional town in Georgia, had a mayor and sheriff. Carter was the sheriff there. And they had, I think it was shortly after the whole, um, what is the Close Encounters? They had an
Ah,
alien, but it was very spooky. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was an October viewing.
right. Thanks, guys, so much for your time. We're hoping we're back for good here. So we're going to roll out a few spooky season episodes here over the next couple of weeks. So please join us. And um, hey, kitty. All right, everybody. Have a great, great day.
Thanks, gang. We'll talk to you.